Hello everybody and welcome to Natter with Nelly. Obviously, if this is the first time on the channel, then usually I do comedy sketches that are made to be insightful and educational on this topic of narcissism and narcissistic abuse. And as somebody recently pointed out to me, narcissists hate being laughed at because they take themselves very seriously. So it's even more the reason for me to continue making comedy sketches. In today's podcast, I've got a question about narcissistic supply. And by the way, thank you so much for your patience. I'd wanted to get this one out last week, but I was predisposed with a project in Ireland. So here I am back on it this week, and I'm answering a question from a viewer called Kelly. Hi, Kelly. Dear Nelly, I loved your last video on this podcast, and I heard you speaking about Professor Vaknin, who said in one of his videos that to a narcissist, supply is just supply, implying that there's no such thing as grade A or sources that are better than others. That hasn't been my experience, but what do you think? Now, from my last video, I spoke about Professor Vaknin, and you'll know that I have huge respect for his work and what he says. And I sat with this for a very long time, entertaining the possibility of that being correct. But when I hold it up to my own experience with narcissists, particularly the last, it just doesn't resonate. The point that I would agree is that no one person or supply is special to a narcissist in the sense of being special that you and I would give to a person that we deeply love, respect and cherish, because we know that narcissists, they might appear as human, they can simulate human behavior, but they're really missing vital components that go into the making of a human being. One of the biggest aspects is an inability to love and connect with anybody. So of course, if you're missing that, how can anyone be considered as special? Plus, of course, remember their grandiosity and splitting. It has to make themselves the special one. So to be all good, everyone else needs to be all bad. To be superior, other people need to be inferior. To be the special one, everyone else needs to be the irrelevant ones. Also, narcissists, they have that deep void that can't hold anything. And them not being able to self-regulate and needing others for that purpose means that they need continuous supply, and they'll go into depletion without it. And the truth is, no one person on this earth will ever be enough because they're insatiable for more and more and more and more and more. They're the same as addicts on this level. They just can't get enough. So it needs to keep coming no matter how good their primary supply source is. They always need multiple other sources. Friends, family, children, intimate partners, wannabe lovers, would-be lovers, could-be lovers. As much attention and also services and conveniences as they can possibly use. They can never have too many sources. Like, they are dependent on supply to live, which is problematic for them because, let's face it, they hate people. They consider that everyone is beneath them. So to have a dependency on anybody else is a threat to their grandiosity. It just is. That's why they are highly unlikely to ever tell you that they need you. They'd rather project and say how much you need them. So this is where I disagree, and I'll present my reasons for why, right? If you have ever known a drug addict, you'll be aware that they know the difference of quality that they're getting with various suppliers. If they're happy with what they are getting from one supplier and that person goes away and for whatever reason they're forced to go with another supplier, they'll compare and rate what they've been given with what they've had previously. And they'll notice if it's better or worse. And that's one thing that we can understand as humans, as opposed to fake humans, simulating humans like narcissists. If you're used to a certain standard, say you're used to eating out at a certain high quality restaurant, and then for whatever reason, you can't eat there anymore and you're forced to go to McDonald's. You eat that food and it's just not substantial. It doesn't fill you up. It's not tasty. You're going to experience a downgrade. Of course you would. So why wouldn't the same be true for narcissists in supply? My opinion is based on relationships with narcissists. And because they're so self-interested, it's actually in their interest to assess what the best sources of supply are to them. And from what I've seen, they have a sixth sense for knowing who's going to be the best. And because they have a real need for people like as food for the vampire or parasite, then why wouldn't they pick the very best that they could get? They are vampires as much as they're addicts. Don't you think that a vampire would be able to discern what neck they'd like to sink their teeth into? Of course, in desperation and depletion, they'll buy anything, but when they have a choice, they desire to go for a better source. One, and I'm sorry to be graphic, some people are just tastier than others and give that vampire more power. And also there can be an element of sadistic pleasure in bringing something of purity and light into the darkness. Now, of course, I'm using the vampire analogy because it is so aligned to what narcissists are. Something that I can agree entirely with Professor Vaknin is when he said that narcissists are dead. They're the living dead. They have hearts, but they aren't beating. They're living, and yet they're lifeless. So what does a narcissist need from supply even more than material gains? They need life. They need your life. They need your life force, your energy. And does everybody provide them with that? No, not everybody wants to. Not everybody is capable. Not everyone has enough power within them to generate this life energy to another person. Speaking from my own personal experience with a narcissist, and for those that have been watching me for a little while, and the last podcast, for example, you will start to understand that I'm a strongly spiritual person, right? I have my beliefs, I have my connection, and it's been made stronger through the horrific experience of narcissistic abuse and coming face to face with an evil force. To say that supply is just supply and narcissists don't really care where it comes from is tricky, because I know that I was picked out and targeted by the narcissist. And the tricky thing is, what we do need to keep into our minds is, no, we weren't special, and yet we were special. Let me explain, right? You as a person, you'll never be known as a person for who you are. You'll only be known through the narcissist in terms of what supply you offer them. And I've known narcissists, by the way, with no shortage of supply, with, excuse the expression, readily available and willing victims, because obviously they don't know who they're dealing with. And they just find the narcissist very attractive and very arousing, which narcissists can do very well. And I've seen narcissists stick around with their masks for longer periods when they've perceived that a person was going to be useful to them in the future somehow, either in the local community or a job, etc. And they will pretend to like that person, but the moment that they don't need them anymore, or they don't get their own way, what they want, they'll cut it and they'll never think twice. But I've also seen from my own experience, even when they've discarded and even when they've moved on physically, not wanting to let go of certain people or close the door on the energetic connection. I had that with me. The narcissist, they wanted to keep this channel open between us. And when I look at that, I can't say it was because of a desire for money or something material or a use that they could get out of me. It was purely for access to my energy and keeping a hold on something that really I can only describe as my soul. They really felt it was now theirs, that I was them, and they don't do this with everybody, and they don't want to do this with everybody. So there's got to be a reason that they do this with some and not with others. The reasons that I believe, just like I was speaking about with vampires choosing their victims, narcissists, they naturally know instinctively, like a predator that they are, who is going to be an energy source that will provide them with the most power. They're power hungry. We know that, but they have no power by themselves. They need to steal the power and energy of others, because without it, they're lifeless and they're powerless. So in my experience of what they prefer to choose and find is someone that does have a lot of internal strength and power and high levels of energy, that's also capable of tuning into them quite naturally because of their high levels of sensitivity and empathy. In all honesty, they want to go for bright shining lights. The brighter, the better. People with a purpose that are connected and plugged into life and life energy, that have a lot of love, because love is life energy. And narcissists are devoid of that. This is where it becomes sick and twisted, because I honestly believe that the more value that they place on your supply, the more that they need it and need you, the worse they abuse you and try to destroy you. And that, I think, is largely to do with their own self-loathing and the way that they envy and are jealous of those that possess all of the positive energy and things that they just don't. And they take it out on you, your ability to love, which they despise, their enemies of love, and the light that shines from within and around you. It threatens them. And I believe that there's a dark pleasure in them taking this and redirecting that positive life force in their direction. It's like taking a hostage captive. They capture you, and for a time, and sometimes it is a long time, because you have a power that they don't. And they need it, and they'll take it from you. It's not theirs, and it's definitely not theirs to take. They're thieves, And that universal energy is meant to go to you, your soul, your life purpose. And they know that they're keeping you from that. And it absolutely doesn't bother them, because they perceive that they have now assigned a new role, which is to serve them. And the way that they do that is to make you feel like you're the weak one. They can't let you think that you have power, because then you can escape them. But you do have the power. And they're using and abusing your power and energy to bolster their own selves. And they do this by violating not only emotional and mental boundaries, but by crossing spiritual ones that's just not allowed to be crossed. How dare anyone believe that another person's life is their own to do with whatever they want, including to destroy it, especially when that person is of love, kindness, empathy, and light. That violates every single spiritual law. And believe me, for those thinking that narcissists don't get their karma, they will pay for that at some point. Okay, story time. I had a narcissist confess to me 2 different things, and I know that they were not lies, they were truths. The first one that was said to me was, "You make me feel alive where others don't." This wasn't said in a romantic way. It was literally a confession of, "I need your energy." Honestly, I would have liked it to have been romantic, but I knew it exposed a sad reality that my energy was getting used and fed upon by someone that could never be happy, content. They could never be loved enough. I did try to pour as much love into them as possible, but all the love in the world, it doesn't go anywhere. It only depletes and wastes your energy. And the second was the narcissist saying to me, "I was a little bit lucky to have found you." Again, it wasn't said to be beautiful. It was said in a rare moment of truth, which I thought to myself, well, you're more than a little bit lucky, and actually I'm more than a little bit unlucky at this point. And even though the narcissist that I knew said those things, they still made me believe in the end that they didn't need me. And yet all of their actions, not their words, their actions were telling me the absolute opposite. Honestly, when a narcissist finds someone that is a power generator, that has strength, passion, willpower, positivity, believe me, they don't want to let that person go, because they're fully aware how difficult it will be to try to replace them. So from my experience, not all supply is equal. And for narcissists to find really good sources of supply that works for them and ticks most of their boxes, it's not easy. It's not like it's such a common occurrence to find those wonderful individuals, so loving and kind and sensitive, that will give to them. The world's a cruel place. It's dog eat dog. And they find out, because blessings, they don't keep on rolling in one after the other to the narcissist. But at the end of the day, even when they get great supply, that person, remember, is never a person. We're all dehumanized. We're all just supply. So the fact that we were great supply, it doesn't make us special, like I said. Even though every single one of us is special, and we must remember that. But the narcissist will never love or appreciate you for who you are. They just need your supply. So in that case, yes, supply is supply, but is all supply equal? Absolutely not. And will the narcissist ever be content with even the best supply in the world? Never. Even with the best person in the world that they could possibly get, which is probably you and was probably me. They will still take it for granted. They'll wipe their feet on it and they'll throw it out in the trash. That's the sickness of the narcissistic condition. It is never, ever, ever satisfied. I'd like to leave you now with a spiritual saying that I heard many, many years ago, and it's actually about all forms of addiction, which also relates strongly to narcissists. It's a very true saying, and it says, "Ever fed, never satisfied. Never fed, ever satisfied." I'll let you think on that one. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this video has been helpful in some way. And I'm really curious to know what your experience has been, and if you can relate to anything that I've shared here, then let me know in the comments below. And for all of you that have been supporting me with your subscribes, your likes, your shares, and even your donations, honestly, a massive thank you. It means the world to me, because it helps me to do what I'm doing and to get the messages out there to a wider audience. And also, to find those people that really need this information now in their lives. All of this helps me massively. I couldn't do it without you, so thank you. And thank you, Kelly, for the question. Keep them coming anytime. The info on how to submit a question is in the description box. For now, take care. Sending love to you wherever you are and at whatever stage you're at in your recovery and healing after narcissistic abuse. I'll see you again very soon.